Welcome, I'm Rabbi Phil Bressler of Beit Am in Corvallis, Oregon, and this is the daily summary video for the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Yomi Daily Halacha Learning Project, covering the passage from Siman 76 Seif 14 to Siman 76 Seif 22. You can find links to the Hebrew and English text of this passage and to the calendar of upcoming passages in this video's description. So first of all, Mazel Tov to everyone who's made it this far. It's been nearly a month since we began with the laws of Pesach. And despite that today, the 22nd of Nisan, is the 8th day of Pesach, for those who keep 2 Yom Tov days at both ends, it's time to jump back into the regular, as it were, cycle of learning, working our way through the laws of Shabbat. One tricky bit, however, is that we're going to pick up here on Siman 76 in a Siman covering prayers on Shabbat and Yom Tov. Now, we've missed at this point Shabbat candle lighting, Kabbalat Shabbat, and Ma'ariv, Shabbat Shacharit, Musaf. We're all the way on Shabbat afternoon already for Mincha. So we're picking up a little bit in the middle, in midstream. And this is mostly going to be about what's different on Shabbat and Yom Tov from prayers that are said on regular days. So if the order and the content of the Siddur is not already familiar to you, I really recommend getting a hold of a book to follow along with. I'm going to be using the Sim Shalom for Shabbat and festivals, the previous generation Siddur from the conservative movements, and I'm going to make PDF files from the Rabbinical Assembly of that book available in this video's description. So Shabbat afternoon Mincha starts with Ashrei and Kedusha Desidra and Chatzi Kaddish, then gets right into Torah reading. Now the opening of Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for the reading of the Torah, is slightly different from usual at Mincha. We add a line Va'ani Tefilati, which might be familiar to some of you from high holiday Torah services. Interestingly, if there's no Sefer Torah available to read from, and therefore no Torah service, we say this line still, but we do it before Chatzi Kaddish so we can go straight into Amidah. Now the Amidah, or the Kitzur, refers to Amidah, which just means standing. It's the standing prayer, as Shmona Esrei, 18, as that is the traditional count of the number of blessings it contains. The reality, however, is there's 19 on weekdays, and on Shabbat and Yom Tov, there's really only 7. However, it's still referred to as Shmona Esrei, the 18. There's an additional line, Tzidkat Tzedek, that's added right after the leader's repetition of the Amidah. It's about God's tzedek, God's justice or righteousness, which is alluding to matters of judgment and death, so we leave them out if it's a relatively upbeat kind of a day. Check out Sim Shalom on page 239 for a list of those days. The rest of the Siman covers what happens when you make a mistake while you're reciting the Amidah. Now, as noted, the regular weekday Amidah is different from Shabbat and Yom Tov. Both start with the same 3 brachot, the same 3 opening blessings, and end with the same 3 brachot. So it's the blessings in the middle that are different between them. So if you forget that it's Shabbat or Yom Tov, and you start in after the opening 3 blessings on the weekday brachot, as long as you realize partway through, you should finish the bracha that you're on, then jump back and begin the intermediate brachot of Shabbat and Yom Tov. Seif 17 has many more details to learn if you're seeking to be precise about this. They're good to know so that your prayer is not going to be interrupted if you do make a mistake. I also want to recommend, as long as we're talking about prayer books, the Koren Siddur, published by the Orthodox Union, which has great useful guidance, Hilchot Tefillah, at the back for quick and easy reference as well. If, however, you realize your mistake within the concluding brachot, those last 3, you should stop immediately without finishing the bracha and jump back to the middle bracha for Shabbat and Yom Tov. If you get all the way to the Koda Yehiyu L'Ratzon, before you realize you've made an error, you got to start all the way over and do the whole thing from the top. If you screw up in the middle of Musaf Amidah, which is usually appended to the Shacharit service, you should stop immediately and jump to the correct place. Making mistakes in reciting fixed liturgy isn't a transgression per se, but the Kitzur sees it as an ill omen, as it says, that you should try to be wary of. Also note there are differences in the middle bracha between Shacharit, Mincha, and Mari services on Shabbat. But the theme of them is substantially the same. So if you realize quickly that you've mixed them up, just start over. But if you complete them, it's okay because you've set a bracha on the appropriate theme, so no harm, no foul. Musaf, however, has a middle bracha with a unique theme, mentioning the Musaf offering in the temple. So you got to redo that one if things get mixed up. I want to make one last note on the whole idea of making mistakes in prayer. I don't understand there to be any sense of transgression with any sort of moral dimension to apply here. The Kitzur is reflecting a basically orthodox perspective on prayer, that the words of our lips are offered, at least to some degree, in lieu of obligatory temple sacrifices that are no longer made. Just as those sacrifices were carefully prescribed, check out most of the book of Leviticus, prayer as mitzvah is similarly regulated. Now, it should go without saying that the value structures around prayer, even prayer as mitzvah, as religious obligation, are different outside of orthodoxy. And under no circumstances should anyone who's studying this material be made to feel that they've been praying wrong. As much as keva, the fixed element of prayer, matters, it's still nothing. It's hollow without kavanah, spontaneous and wholehearted intention. That's all for today. As always, our learning is dedicated to Rabbi Shlomo Gansfried, the author of the Kitzur, and the historic Jewish community of Uzhhorod, Ukraine. See you tomorrow.